morning, everybody. I think we're starting. Please welcome us on the talk about women's football. I'm just waiting for everyone to come in. Maybe the doors will be closed or not. I'm not sure, actually. Would be nice. My name is Marieke Visser, and I am your moderator of today. But also, I would like to start with some facts. Not fun facts, but just some facts. Did you know that up until the 60s, it was not possible for women to open your own bank account, to open a bank account without the signature of a man, of your husband? I think this is important to remember where we come from and how little time ago that was. And did you also know that in the early 1900s, across Europe, there were a lot of women playing football already, and it already attracted like 40 to 60K of visitors. So while our men were fighting the battle of the World War I, the women were actually playing football and attracting a lot of audience. And I think you also know the forgotten World Championship in '71, the Copa 71, attracted as well like 80,000 visitors. So you might wonder what happened, but also what's needed, because still I grew up in the 80s with the idea that football was not for girls. And we are still stuck in outdated systems, I guess, outdated structures. And we still have a lot of situations where it's all about the men's teams and the women's teams are in the shadow of the men's. And we still often pick up signals that women's football is only costing money and it's not a chance, an opportunity. While I see it as a big opportunity to invest, a potential. And also the UEFA stated that the commercial value of the women's football game will grow like 6 times with the multiplier in the next decade. So I think this is a huge opportunity, and I would like to talk to you about that. And that's also why I founded Hera United. We will be the first female professional football club in the Netherlands, and aiming to be the champion in the Netherlands, but also to win the championship in Europe. And I think it's time to really invest in women's football, to disrupt this market, and to raise the bar on women's football. So I'm really curious about your ideas of how to grow, how to maintain this sport in the next decade. Because in many cases here in the Netherlands, but also in Europe, we still need that signature of a man when it comes to women's football. And I think this is not good. So, how can we achieve success? How can we maintain the things that is already happening right now? So, my first panel member is Giulio. Can you introduce yourself?
Yes, good morning everyone, and good morning to my colleague of the panel. And Marieke, just a quick one. You are doing an amazing thing. I told you. Is a thing that comes from dreams, and I hope you will success in it. I'm sure you will. I'm Giulio Tedeschi. I'm the CEO and the founder of Tedeschi & Partners, and we are a women's football agency. When I say women, I like to state this strongly because we only represent women footballers. It's a clear choice on the market. And we have actually offices in 5 different countries. And I am the deputy from the Italian Association of Football Agents on the women's side.
Yeah. Thank you. Pleasure. Fabi.
I'll go next. Hi, everyone. I'm Fabiola Wilcox. I run a branding consultancy agency who specializes in women's sport. I have been working in football for a couple of years and have 15 years experience in branding and marketing and communication. So really excited to be here today talking about this incredibly important topic, which is the women's game and how do we grow it and create a further success of it.
Thank you very much. Bianca.
Yeah, happy to be part of this panel today. So thank you very much for inviting me. My name is Bianca Rech. I'm the head of women's football at FC Bayern Munich. Having quite a long career in football, being a player, national team player for Germany, several clubs played in Germany and in Europe. So, yeah, happy to discuss the growth and the development in the past few years because we have exciting times ahead.
Thank you. Really curious about your experiences as well. Isabel.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for inviting me to this panel. My name is Isabel Cabrejas. I'm the project manager from For Football. For Football is a company that is focused on the growth of women's football, and we develop different kind of projects for its specialization. As you know, football was made for men, so right now we are changing this to specialize in all the women phases. So yeah.
Yeah. Thank you. And Isabel sent me a letter a few weeks ago about women's football, the development, your concerns, your thoughts. And we were like, maybe we should just start with reading this letter, because I think it's a really great starting point. And it's also a great example of how we can do just things differently, right?
Yes, exactly. It's more a letter for motivation, all the women's community. So I'll be happy to read it to you very fast.
I'll just sit down then.
Thank you. Should I stand up? No, stand up.
What works for you?
Okay, amazing. So, to all the women's community out there, today is time to enjoy every step, every effort, and every achievement that we have seen day by day in the development of women's football. Enjoy. Enjoy a lot, because in the very near future, our eyes will no longer fill with joy when we hear that the stadiums have been sold out. We will no longer cry when we experience the chants of fans supporting their teams in the stadiums that is a full house. Attendance and TV ratings will no longer be defined as records in the diary's headlines. The excitement of seeing brands launching women-specific products or becoming main sponsors of a women club will come to an end. Enjoy, because current players' accessibility will no longer be the same. Security will be needed against the overflowing fanaticism we will face. We will stop asking for the creation of new leagues and championships and start protecting our players' welfare against the excessive amount of games they will be playing. Congratulate the achievements of your colleagues and your friends in the industry, because they will be the role models who shape the future generations to fill their positions. Enjoy yourself, because thinking like a woman will be a valued and a wanted skill. Enjoy the new reality of seeing girls in schools carrying their footballs to play during breaks. We will no longer have to beg clubs to accept our daughters in their teams, as there will be football for everyone. As players, we won't have to prove to anyone that women can play with a one-on-one skills challenge, as we have had to do so many times. Enjoy, because the hardest part is yet to come. Normality will arrive soon, and we will have to maintain the strength, the motivation, and the passion to keep growing and innovating every day. Enjoy it very much, because today the narrative has changed. We have proved what many of us have been preaching for years. The best is yet to come. The golden years of women's football are here, so let's keep pushing to get where we want to be. Thanks to all those women's pioneers in this movement, who years ago and for many years have fought to get to where we are. Today is a reality because of you, and we will keep working hard to clear the path for future generations to come. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Yeah, it was great for me to read that letter, and I think there's some great outtakes as well. You were talking about your the experience of getting tears in your eyes the first time you have been at this great women's football event. What was it for you?
Now, it was amazing, not because I was cheering Football Club Barcelona at all. It was because the fact that the stadium was full, and for so many years I heard, like, no, women will never, ever fill up a stadium. And that for me is like, as a dreamer, as a past dreamer,
Yeah, exactly.
my dream is coming true, even though I'm not playing in that field.
No.
So for me, it's like goosebumps everywhere, and it was amazing, yeah.
And I think we can all share those feelings, those moments. Do you have something, Bianca, a defining moment for you that you were like, it's happening?
Yeah, pretty much. I think right after the European Championship in England, where Germany took place in the final, didn't win, but we took place in the final. Right after, there was a movement even at Bayern Munich with the fans, which was incredible. Like, we had full stadium like within days for friendly games. We had to play in the big stadium because we couldn't make it on our training ground anymore. And I think one of the biggest feelings I had, and I pretty much feel the same, when we had the chance to play the first time in the Allianz Arena. So when I drove my car from the campus to the Allianz Arena, I got the goosebumps as well. And I was saying, wow, finally it's really happening.
Yes.
We play in the Allianz Arena in full in red, and it was a very incredible experience.
And did you expect that to happen one day, 10 years before?
I always believed,
Yes.
and I'm a fighter, so
Yeah.
I really hoped for that, for that coming true. And to be honest, I thought it will come. So,
Yeah.
and finally we're here, and I think
Yes.
sold-out stadium will be happening in the future a lot more often.
Yes. Well, speaking of, what do you think is needed to maintain this, to keep on building and keep attracting? And
Yeah, absolutely.
it's a big question, I'm aware, because it's basically the whole thing what we're discussing here. But
It is.
yeah.
So I think from my perspective, I agree. You know, the record-breaking crowds that we have seen, and not just in stadiums in the UK, but across Europe, really speak to this truth around the exponential growth of women's football, and it's an incredibly exciting time to be a woman working in football. But I think cracking attendance on a regular basis is the biggest challenge for the women's game. I think, when attendance is growing on a regular basis for clubs, that's when the women's game will become a sustainable part of any club, and therefore will become safe, right? We have seen clubs being relegated and players being made part-time, and it is inevitable that will continue to happen until we become a sustainable part of any club. And I think that's the key for us to address. And that is, in essence, right, that's a sales job, that's a marketing job.
Yeah.
There is a big job we were talking about earlier when we were Giulio. There's a big job to be done in regards to defining what is the identity of the women's game within different clubs, and because that should be steering how we promote the game, how we sell it, how we talk about it, how do we brand it, the language that we use, which is incredibly important when it comes to creating that emotional connection that will not just bring new fans into the sport, but actually safeguard the future of women's football.
So have you talked about this before? Do you agree? And do you have some examples maybe already from how it's done, how we can just reach the women's fans?
Yes. First, I just want to state something. I mean, don't take me wrong. I mean, I'm very happy to see these people here that are just here for hearing this topic. But the goal is to arrive. Yesterday I was moderating, a panel about FIFA agents. Always the boring stuff about FIFA agents. But the audience was like doubling this one. Because one of the first goals that we have to achieve is normalizing the thing. I mean, I never saw all other sports that aggressiveness about women's playing other sports. I mean, you have swimmers or, I don't know, skiing players or tennis players. If you have, I remember Sharapova from tennis was like an amazing world star, and everyone was cheering for her. The same for the women's was not allowed for a lot of years. And I'm coming from a country, Italy, who was like crazy passionate about football, even if I'm splitting with Roberta, my partner, life between Italy and London, like I was saying to you. Now the good thing is that we are seeing always, every year, we are rescribing records of people attending games, which is kind of good, even if these hide a structural problem, because most of times people go there for very cheap tickets. You go to stadium for a few amount of money. So I see a lot of you saying, yes, this is still, of course, it's still a first step. So to answer to your question, I don't have the right answer, the general right answer. What we have to do? My perception is trying to bet on the new generation. I mean, the Z generation, the X generation, the youngest one, that have a fresh mind to to be ready to support a club just because they support a club, Bayern München or Real Madrid or whatever, you know, especially the multi-sports platform clubs that in Europe are quite common, in which the 20 years old, the 18 years old goes and say, I fell in love with this player, no matter if he's a woman or a man, trying to create interactions and separate the things, like we were saying together, and I was agreeing with her, because separating the path between men and women means giving them the right recognition, even in terms of sponsorship. If you have, I don't know, Juventus we have in Italy is like a big club that has Jeep as main sponsor, no? If you have this one for men, all of these sponsors, we were speaking yesterday about that with Stefano Braghini, which is actually the, you know Stefano, he's a big personality of Juventus world and now in Italian national team. And he was awareing the club to say, keep aware on having the same sponsors for men and women. Even because for the club it's not good at the end of the game. Bianca, you can tell me if I'm telling wrong or not. Because then maybe Jeep goes to pay a cheaper amount of money investing in sponsor, just having a Juventus or Bayern München player, instead of having a separate sponsor. So finding the ones that for real are taking care of this industry.
It should be possible then to arrange that, to be able to invest in your women's team, to be able to get a sponsorship only for the women. Bianca, how is that at Bayern? Is that possible? Do you have for the women's teams your own investors and sponsors?
Yes, it was quite a hard way, to be honest, because some years ago we had the same thing, marketing and all the legal, and you have to pay a lot of money to be a sponsor at FC Bayern and to have the logo.
Yeah.
And then we said, yeah, well, but if there is a company who really wants to sponsor and invest in women's football and they're not able to pay $1 million from day one, we need to find a way, right? So FC Bayern opened it up 2 years ago, and since then we really can see the possibilities and the interest of sponsors who really want to be part, especially on women's football, because it's a different brand, they have a different community, they want to reach different people because the audience is different in the games. So it's actually an asset for the club, but it's a big investment for us that sponsors are coming in and really exactly want to sponsor us and not only the men's team.
Yes.
So, and it gives you much more opportunities because the players are more accessible than the men's players. So there's much more a sponsor can get at the moment from us compared to the men's game.
Yeah. And did you have to convince people about that it was really important to split that and to be able to offer that?
Yeah, it was quite a fight in the beginning because Bayern Munich as a brand is a big brand and they had kind of the rules and it was quite hard in the beginning, but then they felt that they saw the development of women's football, they saw the interest because companies coming to the club and ask, hey, we want to be part of the women's game, we don't want to be part of the men's game. So and I think this was a little bit the eye-opener, and as well with the Euros and 22 and more fans, like there was much more interest, and it came quite with a lot of pace, so there was no way out.
No, so we have been fighting quite a lot with this group already, I think. But you, Isabel, said in your letter, the hardest part is yet to come. What do you mean by that? Aren't we there yet?
No, we are not yet there. Soon we will get there for sure. What I mean here is like, I'm talking about what you're talking right now also. Traditions are being created for new girls. I mean, for example, as I said, like in the letter, like girls are taking their balls to schools for first time to play football in the recesses and in the breaks. And parents, also maybe because of the pricing of the stadiums, they're taking their girls to see the players. It's something that does not happen before. I don't know. I mean, also speaking a lot about Mexico, I'm originally from Mexico, so we've seen a huge difference about this. So we are really seeing that girls are watching the role models to become these players and wanting to play football and everything. So for them, for those little girls that are right now seeing their players in the stadiums, this will be normal. It was not normal for me. So right now, the generation of the women's community that is investing or like purchasing any women's football product or anything has the passion, you know, and anything you will develop, they will support. Anything, you know, we're a huge community that is very open, and I love the community, women's football community, because we really want to get to that mature product. And when we get to that mature product, when these girls, they of course will have the passion, but the passion will be different. The passion will not be, oh, please let me play football. The passion will be like, I want to play in the biggest teams of women's football. So that will change in 15 years. So today the strategy is one, and in 10 or 50 years will be completely another one that we will have to rechange again. So that's why I'm in.
Thank you.
Having those role models is incredibly important, isn't it? Not just on the pitch, but actually off the pitch as well. I think a big challenge that we currently have is that we just need to have more women in football, right? Both in terms of the senior leadership positions in the club, but in clubs overall, right? The majority of women that work in football today work in marketing or HR functions, and I think we just need to have a little bit more parity, because what that will bring to clubs, and when I actually speak with forward-thinking clubs in the UK, like Crystal Palace or Brentford, we all agree that there is a genuine desire to move that forward and to bring more women into sport and into senior leadership. The corridors of power, let's call it, of clubs and federations, which is incredibly important, where decisions are being made.
Exactly.
And that shouldn't be a tick box exercise, right? This isn't about just following what the FA is asking or what other governing bodies are asking you to do. The reason why clubs should be jumping at the opportunity of bringing more women into sport is actually because it will elevate the game. It will future-proof decision making. It will just make the business of football better, like it did for any other industry. So I think there's a big job there.
We all agree on that, but do you think they know how important this is? And do you think, because it's not obligated yet?
No, it's not. But actually,
right?
the FA is going to start clubs, asking clubs to disclose from the beginning of next season, actually, how the progress that they have made in terms of, you know, age and so on, and sex, of the take-up of the boards. So I think from next year onwards, I believe we're going to see a big shift in regards to that. You know, hopefully next year, we're going to be here at Soccer X talking about what an incredible progress we've made.
Yeah.
And fingers crossed for that.
Because in many cases we still need that signature from the men's boards yet. You have, we have been talking about this as well, that there's a lot of men still in decision-making positions. Why is that important to you to change that? Or what is different? Because it's not like that men can't, you know, make great decisions. But
the best choice I had in the agency is be surrounded from women like Roberta. Why? We're speaking about women's game. It's not easy for us to understand the needs of a player, of a women player, because of course even biologically there's different needs. Most of times, but this is, I will say, hopefully we are arriving, we are leading into a 2.0 system of women's game, where we're still fighting against a lot of sport director. Definitely, Bianca, I need to steal your contact later, because I love to speak with people like you, of course. But we have a lot of men still that are in the board or in the position of being a sport director or general director in the women's. Why? Because they didn't found space into the men. So it's easy that they are doing this job in a boring way, not trusting for real in that, just because they are like employed in the club. They don't want to go out of it. Say, okay, I'm doing this, but couple of years and I'll try to switch again into. So those personalities has to be fought, but not about a women's game. In every aspect is like this. I mean, if you are in an environment like us, in the women, and you now trust into this movement, people that are doing this just because they have to, it's not the right one. It's not the right advertisement for the movement, no? So for us, it's important to have people that for real trust, and that's why a lot of clubs now are changing the positions, the the leading position with a lot of former players, because they understand the needs. And even the former players, maybe like you, Bianca, you have always to stay up to date, because things changed. When you were a player, we had players that now are 37, 38, and they were not totally aware of sponsors, and money comes, and a big advertisement company comes to say, I want to have you. So all of this stuff is changing. So we are living changing times, and we need fresh-minded that for real trust in the industry. However, they have to better stay out of the industry. Clearly, I'm stating this.
So passionate about it.
Yes.
So we have this whole new generation of leaders as well coming up from the pitch, but also from other areas, I believe. I think it's really important. Should it be in every club, actually, in the board, a representative? Of course, yeah, maybe to ask the question is to answer it, but is it now in the big clubs in Europe in the right position, or do we need more power? What do you think, Fabi?
It's a good question. I think I would probably say the big clubs have woken up to the prospect and the potential of women's football, and equally the necessity to make the game more equal, balance out boardrooms and balance out senior leaderships of clubs, and I think that is happening. I think in smaller clubs there is a lot of traditional thinking still happening, and which needs to be elevated for sure, and it will be. This is an organic process. We've seen. I come from finance, so you talked about women not being able to sign for a credit card or open a bank account. I used to work for Barclays for quite a few years, and I was, historically they were the bank that actually allowed women to get a credit card or a bank account without their husbands having to sign for it. So finance has been on that journey and is a lot ahead of football in many ways, but the game just is going to catch up eventually, right? Yeah. But I think it's the job of not just women who work in sport, but actually men, allies. I mean, there's so many of you here in this room, and it's incredibly important that, you are the voices of women when we are not sitting at the table where the decisions are being made. To put your hand up and help us, drive change within the game, and hopefully that's what we're going to be seeing within the next season.
So is your experience that as well? Do you have some allies?
Well, I think, it's important, and I think I can absolutely agree. When you look at our club, it's pretty much the same lead, very traditional, all men's on the board, same category below, and I think we all know mixed teams works the best. I'm just not, it only has to be women or it only has to be men. We work together. It needs to be diverse, and I think that's very important. And I think when it comes to leadership, employees don't want to be part of this traditional system anymore. No. And I think this is something very important to keep employees, to keep them happy, because they want to have a agile environment. And I think in a lot of football clubs, it's not like that, and I think this we need to change. And when I look at my club, it's pretty much the same. I think we need to have more women in leadership positions, and I have the right people around me, and I think they see the development, and there is something needed, but we need to push much more.
Yeah, maybe we need to quote them.
I mean, I am for sure that we will see more leaders becoming for next generations. It might feel a little bit lonely when you're a woman working in a women's football community, but they're out there, I'm sure for it. And we'll see more and more coming. And like these kind of spaces that they, like Soccer X, that give us the chance to voice up and talk about women and everything. And they will help to bring more people around. And leaders around the world will be like the role models, as I said. To bring these people, and you also as leaders should invest in those next generations. I mean, giving your time to speak to younger people, to inspire them, and to really get your passion through them. That's the best part. I mean, the best way to bring them as leaders,
That is so true, Isabel. I think everything starts with early education, right? I think clubs and federations need to become a lot more visible in schools and, job fairs, and providing, graduate programs and apprenticeship programs to bring young girls into the sport. And then when we get them, the job then becomes, how do we mentor them? How do we promote them? How do we keep them into the sport? And then obviously later in life, even more important, what are clubs doing to bring moms back into work afterwards, so they don't have to make a choice whether or not they will have a child or continue to work in sport. So whether it's flexible working, job sharing opportunities, part-time vacancies that will allow that flexibility for women to come back into the sport after having children. I think those are the kind of the three pillars that clubs should be looking into.
So there's a lot of layers, right? So we have this top level where needs to be done a lot, but also the grassroots and the development and the building up and the leadership position. So there's a lot of things. Maybe we can get away with 10 topics to work on, but what do you think is important for federations to stimulate this? Because where to start?
It's a big question.
I know.
So the answer doesn't have to be that big,
No.
but I know. So I think it's a whole environment that has to trust in the process. I mean, if you expect that a new growing game like women's has to be immediately giving back monies to investors, I mean, come on. Being honest, on a commercial side, I'm speaking as an agency, all the clubs we are speaking, 9 out of 10, they have debts. But we're speaking most of times of clubs that has the same owners of the men. And they have debt for the men, not definitely for the women. So
They see this women's game as something that's only costing money, but not a thing to invest in for the long term.
the thing is, federations definitely need to improve and give the right push to the system and giving credibility. I mean, we have even good things to say, because at the end of the game, for the state of art, now we see new clubs, actually, literally, like coming out of the blue like mushrooms after a rainy day. It's every year. It's a crazy. This is very Italian now. That's I know, but we love this thing. I mean, we see every year our partners will change, will enlarge, because every year we see new clubs in new cities that we say, come on, they never had a women's football club, and they start owning out of the blue because they are feeling this as an interesting path to invest. Federation has a key role because they have to give them the model of having a new club, having a green way of conducting a club. The old way of making transfers, like you see now in the men, all the things about Saudi and that big bubble that maybe can go to explode in I don't know how many years. You see how many yes I'm receiving, because it's not affordable for clubs.
No.
And clubs that can afford these are just like multi-owner clubs that has billions invested in everywhere. So it's not a sustainable way of doing football. We have to come back a little bit. I mean, and women's game, to me, is reporting to the right way of investing in a sustainable way, you know? So creating in an organic grow every year a good way of creating clubs, creating incomes. So
we don't have to copy the men's model of really big debts and really big numbers, but we do need some investment, because we were talking about it earlier. This train is leaving now. Not tomorrow.
Not tomorrow, but I always say
actually.
Yesterday. The train is at the moment really, really fast. We can see it in the numbers, we can see it in the investments, and I think especially in the last 2 years, and now with the Olympics, next year with the Euros, with the new model, Champions League model, the year after, the Club World Cup are coming. So there's so much happening in women's football, and I always say, if you're not going to be part of it now, you will never, because this train is going to be very fast. And I like the quote you said, because I really think to see women's football as a cost thing is not the right way, because you have to see it as an investment. And I think we need to make the right steps, and we shouldn't keep, let's say, the men's way out of this, because this is not a healthy way. But we need to be, because of the pace at the moment, we need to be careful as well, because we see some of the transfer numbers and so it's very fast at the moment, and we as clubs has as well a responsibility to keep that in the right way.
I agree. And because of this insight that some clubs are investing already, some new clubs are coming up for the women's football, but there are still clubs all women's team participating with not so much money, and the gap is getting bigger as well between the top clubs and the lower clubs. What can we do about that, Fabi? Maybe you have, or Bianca.
I mean, there is a lot of people talk about whether or not women's and men's games should be split up. There's a trend, a line of thinking in regards to that. It's one of those things. We want the investment that is coming from the big names like Man City and Chelsea and so on into the women's game. But at the same time, you're right, it does create a larger gap. I don't have the answer to that. I think it's something that we need to figure it out. But the key thing will be for us to find a way of growing the women's game sustainably, and actually build it in a way that is really purposeful. I think that's the other kind of USP of the women's game as well, which we shouldn't lose sight of that, right?
Yeah.
I'm incredibly excited because actually Brazil has been selected to host the World Cup in 2026, and the club champion as well. And I think it's significant because it's about, it's the first time that the tournament is going to be hosted outside in South America, and it's an amazing opportunity to grow the game in South America. But actually, what I'm really interested on is what is that legacy that is going to be left behind for girls and players and coaches and fans in South America. So the pressure is on the Brazilian Confederation to really create a tournament that it changes society's perception around equality. Yeah. And if that is the case, what an incredible purpose for that tournament to have.
And Bianca, you were about to say something about the gap, right? And how we should
I think it's quite hard. At one point we want the investment, but I think from a sporting side, it's very important that we invest in grassroots as well. Yeah. We need to create young talents because the number of clubs are growing, but we don't have the quantity of players, and we don't have the quality of the players. So for us at Bayern Munich, it's another big topic at the moment, and a big goal to invest in youth football, to grow homegrown talent, to be able to fill teams, to be able to create talent. And I think this is one of the big goal we have, and we need to have in the future, because we need to invest in youth as well.
And female coaches are absolutely key for that, right? There's plenty of empirical evidence that shows that girls stick to football if they're being coached by a female coach. So there is a number of programs in the UK around bringing grassroots coaches and making sure that is set up first and foremost to be able to, as you said, fill the funnel with talent at scale.
That's a good example, and I'm just wondering, do you know if there's anyone bringing all this information and insights and program together to share, to learn from? Because sometimes I have the feeling, and every country is finding their own way of acting upon this quite new market. Like, what do we need in women's football? What do women need? What do we need for the grassroots development? But also in the top league about a female body that's different, hormones, all these kinds of things. How do you think we should collect all this knowledge and all this?
I mean, everything always starts, from my point of view, from education, as always. I mean, today I'm feeling, Roberta, I think you agree, less alone in this panel, because when we speak about that, sometimes we feel like strangers. But of course, always starting from the school is very important. You say the grassroots is very important, even to give the right path to the very young generation, that this could be an awesome idea of having sports for women. Actually, we have, I love to speak with data. I'm crazy with numbers. And we have an increasing of more than 300% in only 1 year in Italy. Those data comes from our Italian Football Federation, just only in terms of women players that inscribed themselves into clubs or academies into the whole country. And this number was reported and is a part of a bigger study from UEFA that says that this is like a massive, increasingly number that is just copying and paste in other countries. It's happening here in Holland, it's happening in Germany, of course with different percentages. I don't remember exactly, but every time we see the number plus is growing. So starting from this, from the base, to create a common path that this could be the sport of this new era is something that is concretely happening at the moment. So, and sometimes I have to say, half, I will say, of the medias will still treat women's like something strange, something different in the women's football. So now I see a changing thing about that, a changing topic, where you see media starting asking and requiring, for example, us in the agency, having interviews with our client, not only the best one, which is definitely, this is very important. The local newspaper contact us for the new one that scored a hat-trick on Sunday. When they have on the first page politics, and then they go to the sports and you see the interview of our client that no one knows in Italy because it's a young one. This is for us important, starting from this and enlarging to the world countries.
Can imagine. We are running out of time actually. One example, I am building our brand, building our merchandise, everything building up, and then I got an example from a merchandise partner last week in my email, so I was really exciting opening it, and then I saw this great outfit, but the shorts were white, and I replied, I don't think women's football players are really happy with white shorts. So it's in the details, in the big things, but also in the small things to be aware of that it's a whole different group actually. So I have one last question. You said the hardest part is yet to come, but also the most fun part is yet to come.
Yeah, I'm very excited about these happy problems that we will face in the future. I will say it like that. Because right now we are in this golden area phase when we can build women's football as we like and as we want. So as you said, like next steps, the specialization of the game will come. Like many brands will be investing in trying to do specialized products for women, as well, shorts and Nike. We have like a lot of things that they've developed. But yeah, also I believe competition is something very important in grassroots, and I would like to said this is example about Barcelona, always like, oh, Barcelona, the biggest team right now. Yeah, but if you go down to the competition structure, the grassroots structure, just in Catalonia, they have 900 teams of women's football, youth women's football, around 250, 100 teams or clubs. So they are competing in a very high level. So each level of youth, they have like subdivisions each level. Yeah. So obviously super important. So yeah, the hardest part is yet to come, because we will, when we get to that normality, we'll need to innovate in that moment. So where we're going to be, where we want to be, we will want a specialized football for women, but also we want it greener, we want it more humanized. Yeah. We want to take care of our players, but we also want for more women to come. So we really want to inspire young people to come to the football, women football industry.
And you will be there as well to be part of the fun part as well. Bianca, one last piece of advice for everyone that is fighting a battle for women's sports in the regular clubs.
Well, I would just say invest in women's sport, invest in women's football, because you will be part of a very, very fun and exciting journey in the future.
Thank you. Luckily for me, one of my investors is here in the room, so it's a good statement.
Huge applause for him. Quote then.
How about you, Fabi?
I would say, look, this is about women supporting women and allies supporting women. You know, the more that we have conversations around this, the easier things will get. And it takes time, but equally, let's keep on it. Let's keep fighting. Let's keep putting our hands up. You know, if your brand or the club or whoever it is that you work doesn't have a female leadership group set up yet. Let's make sure that that is done, next week when we come back to the
Also,
office.
when you're a man and you could just
Precisely,
be an ally.
precisely.
And,
Why not? Like this isn't about men versus women in any way. So I think it's just we're all in this together.
Yeah.
In the end of the day, this is about making the game better for all.
Thank you. Your one last piece of advice.
Quick one. I'd say on a business side, investing now women is a smarter move. So now is the moment. You will see. If you don't want to jump on a train now, you will see in a couple of years that will be more expensive and maybe tough to enter. So now is the moment. Easy. If you don't, okay, it's up to you.
Yeah, great.
Well, thank you. Now is the moment. Our club is called Hera. It's her era. So I couldn't agree more. Thank you, everyone, for listening and being a part of this. And thank you to all of you.
Thank you,
See you
Marieke.
next year.
See you next year.